Swing Good Cell. A couple of things have occurred on YouTube that allow me to do this version of the video for you. In the early 1900s, or possibly even in the late 1800s, a man by the name of Stanley Smith Stevens was born in Ogden, Utah. So yeah, obviously he's Mormon, who became a psychiatrist and was a psychiatrist during World War II and was stationed in Colorado, where of course the Stargate was located. If you know anything about Stargate. But he is the one responsible for developing mass brainwashing on the populace. It's referred to as dichotomous and non-dichotomous categorization. The method is a simple one. You place people in boxes, and you keep telling them over and over again that they are that particular box category to the point necessary for them to believe it and act on it. And as a psychiatrist, you treat in accordance with the category. And so dichotomy is two categories, and then non-dichotomous is spectrum categories, or subcategories. And you've seen that in your life. I've seen how it's used in your lives. In 2016, it was how Russia attacked in the 2016 election. And using Facebook, Cambridge Analytica. It's the method by which they are able to program analytics to manipulate whose video gets top billing. And so yes, it's used in psychiatry or psychology, and it's used from commercials and all sorts of other things. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints even uses it, and our government uses it, as we have a main dichotomous categorization between liberals and conservatives, and within each we have non-dichotomous spectrums within each of those categories. The thing you need to understand to recognize this and say, oh hell no, is to remember, if you read your Constitution, you have to read both Articles 4 and Article 6. We are a constitutional republic. We're not a socialist republic, which is communism, which is party government representing the people. We are not a representative republic, which is fascism, with a representative representing the people as an authoritarian or a monarch. But they purposely have missed that point for us. And so there are many category boxes that have been created for us in our societies. I'll just go list them. LGBT, poor, women, anti-Mormons, ex-Mormons, blacks, immigrants, refugees, Mormons outside of Utah. And that's just the ones that are pertaining to the LDS Church. Disabled, I could probably put here too, and I probably should. Disabled. And so, with the church, they've allowed, even though the prophets have condemned them, the prophets also at the same time have said that they don't know everything and consult the BYU apologists. And so they sort of confuse Mormons when they say apologetics is not the answer, and then say, oh, we don't know everything, we consult BYU. Well, those are the apologetics. The Maxwell Center has become the Apologetic Center, where it used to be Farms that was in charge of apologetics for the church originally, and then it became the part of the Maxwell Institute, and then they booted out Daniel Peterson, and so he formed his own fair, and now it's Fair Mormon, if not something else. But anyway, apologetics is, to be simple enough for you, it's lying as part of a defense. That's what it means to use fallacy argument knowingly. If you accidentally use a fallacy, it's just an unsound argument, but these guys use it knowingly. Their most infamous tactic that they use is ad hominem, where they attack a person's character rather than the topic at hand. So when somebody says the Joseph Smith is not a translator of Egyptian, we can't find the Hebrew name Abraham anywhere on the Egyptian records, well, the Mormon apologists will say, oh, well, you guys are just stupid, you hate the church, you're anti-Mormon. Joseph was a revelator. And so they completely miss the point by attacking another person's character. And I see this on a regular basis whenever somebody thinks they're going to comment on one of my videos that I post. This is why I'm glad that YouTube allows me to hold all comments for review, is because I get a comment such as this one. Now, this person, Corinne Gifhorn, this is her first video to my channel, and she didn't like my character, or at least she's using my character to counter what I'm saying in the video. Now, the video was Russell M. Nelson cancels the second coming. I remember this because this has to do with the coronavirus. During the coronavirus, we've had Nelson send all the missionaries home. All Mormons know, whether they know the source from Heber C. Kimball, that he said there will come a time when the missionaries will be called home during the time of the second coming. And so Nelson, what does he do? He calls the missionaries home. I'm reporting on that. Holy crap! Missionaries are coming home. He's finally shutting down the mission, even though it's too late. But then he decides to commit genocidal murder of Mormons and send out the missionaries back out into the field, as, you know, with sending our kids back to school. Yeah, they're now slaughtering our kids. I still need to check it for today, but it's been record-breaking lately. all because they opened up the schools. And they refused to follow the health professionals from day one. And so Nelson's a part of this. Nelson's a medical doctor. He came out with a video saying, I'm a scientist. I appreciate the work that are being done by the medical doctors and the nursing staff during this pandemic. And then he says, but. And I just go, oh God. I mean, it's bad enough that he brought up an idol god in April conference. It's bad enough that he took away the high priest group so that nobody can be exalted in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. Mormons didn't even know that was necessary because the church keeps fooling them and thinking, oh yeah, you just need the Melchizedek priesthood. Only an elder? Oh, you can't think that way. That's wrong thinking, elders. All elders know of, I think it's Packers, or it could be Ballard. I always mix those two guys up with what they talk about, but one of them came out with a little pamphlet that was made into a pamphlet. Only an elder. We as elders shouldn't just think of ourselves as elders. We've got the Melchizedek priesthood, and yet it's still insufficient. We can't get exalted in the Mormon theology in the afterlife, and they refuse to say that. Oakes was, oh yeah, there's scripture backing for this. Yes, like what? Like Alma, where it talks about the necessity of how to become a high priest, or the book of Abraham, where Abraham, his whole mission in life is to become a high priest, or the Doctrine and Covenants, where it says in 76, you have to be a high priest, a priest after the order of Melchizedek, in order to enter into the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. So, which scripture of those are you referring to, Oakes? Did your BYU apologist not inform you of this? And so, canceling the mission, or the home teaching program. Wow, gee, wouldn't have that been helpful during this pandemic so that we can have a phone connection, making sure everybody's safe and having their needs taken care of? Oops. Interesting timing. And so, he canceled the second coming. That's part of the sarcasm there, and a criticism of his inability to lead as a prophet and as a person who has been a medical doctor during what we're experiencing is biblical prophecy. And so Corrine could not handle this. She does not understand. And so instead of being sound, saying, I disagree with your argument. He's a prophet of God. And Jesus told him to open up the missionary field because the missionaries will not get infected by coronavirus, that he will protect them. Well, hopefully she didn't say that, because that didn't happen. The coronavirus has been progressively worse just by opening up businesses and having Mormons go back to church. And so she then projects onto herself when she makes a false accusation, because that's what an ad hominem is. That's what all unsound arguments, fallacies are, is they are false accusations. And as a result, anybody who uses a fallacy, false accusation, are projecting themselves. And that's why I don't get triggered by these people. Is because I understand where she's coming from, in the sense that she has categorized me into a box to make this justification. She has declared me as an LDS critic, and therefore anything I say cannot be listened to. And this is the danger that Mormons are being faced with, as I talked to you in a previous video about this, that the church has set you up by the withholding of information, by only providing you with educational material out of context, refusing to translate correctly even just the Bible. And because they're purposely withholding knowledge from you, what they present puts Mormons at a disadvantage. And now that we have the internet, other people who we send out missionaries to go preach to are able to access information that Mormons are unprepared to answer and reply to, because there is a whole ton of stuff available to the world, just your fingertips, and Mormons aren't prepared for that. They're still back in the old days of print reading, where the rest of the world was print reading, and so you had to come across somebody who studied the Bible, deeply studied, and knew it frontwards and back. That those were the only people that gave the missionaries problems. But the majority of people just don't have the time and ability to do that kind of research, similar to Mormons. They can't spend the time, take care of a family, go to work, go to school, and be scriptorians all at the same time. And so sending out our youth, just as they are out of their teen years, and now under Monson, he's even made it worse by saying, oh, well, men can go at 18 once they've graduated from high school, women from 19. And that's causing a greater problem. And you saw Monson send out or lower the age, which created a big boost in the new missionaries going out into the field. But the reason why they did that is because there was a huge exodus with the advent of the internet and the improved technologies on the internet, where people were able to search the Mormon church. Hey, these missionaries came knocking on my door. Let's find out who they are. Uh-oh. They've got a lot of questions to answer. And these young kids are clueless. Both of my younger of 3 children, I found out, came home early from their missions. It was too much for them to handle. I don't know what happened. That information is being held from me, their father. But it wouldn't surprise me if it had to do with the people having access to information that my kids were never taught, never prepared to answer, never taught to reply to. When I went to the MTC way back in 1989, one of the instructors wanted us to, what's going on? What are you doing? Hold on. Alright. They wanted us to do role plays. one of us was supposed to be the investigator, the other was supposed to be a missionary. They were supposed to do discussions, and then as investigators we were supposed to ask questions. And so I wanted to take it to the next level, and was quickly told, no, let's make it easy. Oh, come on. But yeah, we're thrown softballs our whole life as Mormons growing up. And then it's made worse as I've exposed that the church has purposely adopted evangelicalism, doctrines and belief systems, to mix in with Joseph's original doctrines, and it's been a nightmare. And the reason for that, if you're wondering why they would do that, well, there's this guy named Brigham Young who took a huge hinge point, to use what they talked about in April conference, to go completely contrary to what Joseph's organization was. And the method in which they did it was that they had done it secretly as the secret combination group within the church, and once they got Joseph murdered, they kidnapped and extorted people to come to Salt Lake Valley with them, and then once they got settled, they came out with all this stuff and said, oh yeah, well, Joseph Smith was doing it in secret, we're just now doing it openly because we're now safe in these here valley hills and whatever. But I mean, dear God. But the United States government came in, shut them down, literally shut them down, disincorporated them, took away their citizenship status, took away their property. That's why the University of Utah is not BYU. BYU was rebuilt later when they finally had money again. The United States took over the University of Utah. And nobody even bothered to tell me that much. They always said, oh, BYU used to be called University of Utah, or University of Utah used to be called BYU. And they would never explain why. I never knew why, and I never thought to ask why either. And I didn't have Google search to search it. But, and you still won't find it. You have to put it in the context. Why did it stop being BYU in that specific year? And then you have to find the other thing called the Edmunds-Tucker Act. And then you go, okay. And so the categorization helps to discriminate as well as to brainwash. And so what the church does with apologetics is a twofold thing. It uses ad hominem mostly and other unsound arguments to attack anybody who dares to criticize the church. And then the other tactic is to brainwash Mormons at the same time. Teaching Mormons to follow their lead. And so Corrine does just that. She says, you sound like you're insane. Are you? I can't answer that. There's no such thing as insanity. See, she doesn't understand. It was all created by Stanley Smith Stevens. It's all a fraud. When people have difficulties with thinking processes, that's due to their educators. Mormons are wacko and insane because they are miseducated, like I told you. And so that's what she's done. She's been miseducated by the church, so she's now projecting onto me as if I'm the one who's got the problem with insanity. And and so then she goes into the attack. I mean, that crazy laughing. It's too distracting to take you seriously. There's the ad hominem. She's attacking my character after projecting her own misinformation, miseducation by the church that was caused by Stanley Smith Stevens. And so yes, she's getting banned because there's no reason for her to attack me on my own channel. If she doesn't like what she hears from clicking on my video, which, cancel Second Coming? Shouldn't she be concerned by that title? Yes, she should. And she clicked on it, and then, oh my goodness, she's shocked about what I'm saying. And so she attacks with her projection. And so, why did she even bother? Again, why do the guys who consistently come to my channel, knowing their thumbs down will not be seen by anybody else? They're purposely doing it as a pestering, bugging technique, where they hope that they can trigger an emotional response from me. This is also part of Stanley Smith Stevens' processes, is that when you categorize somebody, you then treat them according to the category, and that's what these two Russians are doing. I noticed the other Russians are a little slow in responding and are missing some of the videos, but the first two, they're stable, they're on the ball, and so I constantly see them, though they don't work the same shift. They work from different places apparently, I guess, or they have different schedules of people they have to go across from YouTube to put thumbs down on everybody's videos to try to trigger whoever they can trigger. And so they've targeted me for this, as I've noticed. But it's the same type of tactic, because if they can trigger me with an emotional response, then I'm going to get out, oh, you guys, you're so evil, I gotta die. And then, yeah, they go, oh, see, you are. You're crazy, aren't you? Because we said you are. And that's what psychiatrists love to do. They call you bipolar, so they give you drugs that will cause the bipolar reaction. When you take the drugs, you're all happy and high as a kite, and then the drugs start to wear off, it's time to take them again, and you're in a solemn, oh man, so, and they say, oh, well, that's because you're bipolar. You're high, and then you're low. And those highs and lows mean you're bipolar. They never check your brain. Never. They never do blood work. Never do an x-ray. Never do skin or any kind of sample testing. None of that a medical doctor should be doing. I'm kind of concerned about pharmaceutical companies determining what medical doctors are supposed to do, and thus extorting medical doctors to cause harm when they have a Hippocratic oath not to cause harm. But psychiatrists, no, they do whatever they want. And so once you're in their system, they won't let you go. And women especially are victims of bipolar disorder, because what happens on a monthly cycle, women? You have mood shifts. You must be bipolar. They don't bother to tell you it's just your natural biological functioning. And so if they can get a response from you, which they call a break, when they can break you, that's like gold for them. They have self-fulfilled their own prophecy. And that's what a self-fulfilling prophecy is where they say, well, you're this, and we can prove it by creating the conditions by which you prove it to us. And it's unsound. It has no basis in reality, no medical cause. And if it did have a medical cause, you wouldn't have a mental illness, you'd have a medical illness or condition or causal problem that you would go to a medical doctor, whether it's a neurologist or whatever, to deal with the issue. And psychiatry is basically a worthless position. There's no need for them. And so, yeah, that's the trap that we are under attack for. And then you have Aaron Shafavalaf, and I obviously butchered the spelling because it's supposed to flow off the tongue. But he did a video a week ago about a Michael Flournoy, who was a Mormon apologist, as he proclaims to be, and then has converted to Christianity. Aaron is Christian, so he doesn't see it. He thinks, oh yeah, see, we got the Mormons. He was a smart Mormon apologist, not understanding that an apologist means somebody who defends a position through unsound reasoning. He lies for the church. That's what a Mormon apologist is, a liar for the church. And so this Michael finally realized, I'm just lying for the church. No duh. But instead of pursuing truth, he just decided, oh, well, we're supposed to be followers of Jesus. Christians say they're followers of Jesus. I guess Christianity is the true church. Completely ignoring all his education on our missions, because they don't teach us in regular church about the apostasy. Christianity was over and done. The Roman Empire destroyed them. The apostles gone. You have all these individual churches, over 100 different churches, with just a bishop leading them. Not apostles, not 12 apostles, not even a Christ. It was just bishops. And all these bishops adopted a different creed according to the different gospel that they embraced. And there were more than 4. There were over 100, just like there were over 100 churches. Each church wrote their own gospel. And so, at the time of Constantine said, okay, we can't exterminate these guys. How do we do it? I got it. I saw the sign in heaven of the Cairo, and it means that I am to unite the Christian faith under one faith, one baptism, one religion. And the Nicene Council was convened. And just to make sure they all came, they were extorted by being denied funding for their church if they did not come. So they all came because they wanted funding for their congregation. And so then they all had to hash it out with each other, all having different gospels, all having different creeds, to come up with just one creed, one faith, one baptism, one religion. And they got it all except for who Christ is. They couldn't quite figure out who Jesus Christ was to be. And so, if you don't know, some said he was a mortal man. Some said he was half mortal man, half God. Some said he was all God. Some said he was the Word, and so on. And it caused lots of confusion and anger. And Constantine said, okay, fine. He created a brand new Greek word, homoousios. He not only created a new God, but he created a new Greek word to describe the new God. That's the Trinity God that Christians to this day still believe in. And different people try to explain it. Oh, it's like an egg. You have the outer shell, and then you have the white part, and then you have the yellow part. What? You're talking about some essence, substance, that is not supposed to be comprehended by man, and you're using a physical object to describe it? Seriously? And Christians just don't see it. And now almost 2,000 years have gone by, 1,500 years gone by, over 1,500, and they're still, like apologists, using unsound arguments to defend what was just a creation out of the head of Constantine. It wasn't from God. God's not supposed to be able to appear if he's the supernatural essence that cannot be felt in the physical world, but yet somehow is able to become physical when it wants to, and then goes back into the essence. See, Constantine really did a number on Christians, but he was in power. The bishops couldn't get their funding if they didn't say, yes, master. And so they passed it on back to their congregations, and people are going, what? What? And now we got to practice, we got to have the Sabbath on Sunday, the first day of the week, instead of on the seventh day of the week, which is in the Bible? What? And so, yeah, it took time to brainwash the populace, the masses. Whereas now they've got it down to an art. Just like that, you can instantly brainwash the masses. And right now, they've divided America and are in the process of conquering. They've already given the date, election day. And Mormons are a part of this, because the Mormons are from the terrorist organization against America from way back in the early 1800s. And it's a horrible scenario we're living in, all because of Stanley Smith Stevens, Mormon from Utah, who's now dead. He's been dead since the 70s, but he did his damage, and everybody's suffering because of him, because you guys don't know what to look for and go, hey, wait a minute, no. See those little color test emotion things? Which emotion are you? Which emotional person are you? Well, that's the color test. So, yeah, I was out in grade school when I was given that test. They were trying to brainwash me as a kid.